What's going on, Bulls fans? We are here actually just to kind of talk about some odds and ends for Media Day, the Josh Giddey injury, the small injury update we got from Patrick Williams as well, but more so kind of focusing on the Bulls point guards, Lonzo Ball and Josh Giddey. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have some fun, man. We're going to discuss our Bulls. We can see who shows up. It's a random live here at Chicago Bulls Central. We're going to get into it, but first, we got to play this intro.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. My name is Haize. You guys already know. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's get into it for today. So, very simple topic that I want to talk about today is the Bulls point guard situation. One thing that I did miss in talking about Media Day early, because it was kind of just thrown in there, was Patrick Williams. We didn't hear from him. I'll talk about that a little bit on the end of this situation. But we got two players here in Josh Giddey and Lonzo Ball that sit in two very different places in coming into the season for the Chicago Bulls. Now, I labeled this, and you saw in the thumbnail, the point guard curse, because I think most people would agree. Besides Kobe White's play last season, the point guard position has been largely cursed for the Chicago Bulls almost since Derrick Rose left. Like, hell, we had Jerry and Grant, Chris Dunn come through here. Tomas Satoransky was in here for a minute as well, right? So, like, overall, first of all, Vaughn, you ain't been off the grid, bro, because I saw you in those videos with that headpiece on, and you look very happy. So you was in Zen, you was in the zone. So I didn't want to ask you nothing about it. When I saw those posts on Instagram, I said, "What did they do to my boy? Why does my boy have on the headpiece, bro? Like, are we trying to get in touch with the African roots? Like, I don't know, bro. You look very zen though. Listen, you look very happy, but you ain't been off the grid completely, because I saw you with that headpiece on. That's not off the grid, my boy. That is very, 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 very noticeable. You're very on the grid, my boy. No, but so the Bulls point guard situation has been in turmoil for the large part of 8-9 years, to be 100% honest with you, right? And so, one thing that we heard from this was Josh Giddey has not really been able to work out in practice with the team and stuff like that. Now, it doesn't seem like the Bulls are too worried about this being something that'll last going into the season. Even Josh Giddey stated that he felt pretty confident, right, in the fact that he'll be ready to go by the start of the season. Didn't really say too much about preseason, but at the start of the season, he feels like it sounds like he's very confident. He'll be there. He'll be ready to go. Things like that. So this isn't about necessarily just the injury to Josh Giddey, right? Like, that did suck to hear. I want to be clear in that. That did suck to hear, and the fact that that did suck to hear the fact that he's injured. The injury's been lingering on for a couple of months. That's not what you really want to hear for your new starting point guard, right? And so overall, though, like I said, doesn't seem to be too much concern. I'm not going to fearmonger over it until we hear otherwise or something to the contrary, that Josh Giddey's going to be ready to go at the start of the season. We're just going to go off and operate in that understanding. Josh Giddey, he's going to be ready to go at the start of the season, and it's up to Billy Donovan and his coaching staff to kind of figure some things out with him, right? But the reason why I still label this the point guard curse and put Josh Giddey on this thumbnail isn't because of the injury. It's because of the situation that he's coming into, right? And I think that you cannot overlook that while Josh Giddey is coming into a situation to where he says, "I'm getting in touch with my roots with the turban. I've been off Chicago Bulls grid," though. That's hilarious. But he's coming into a situation where they're going to have to figure out some things on the fly. And while I do look at Josh Giddey and Zach LaVine being something, I'm not really worried about that fit working. The Kobe White Josh Giddey one, and not because it can't work, but it is adding that extra hump in there, right? And so the thing is, a hurdle, I guess, is a better way. That's a bit of a pause to say add a hump in there when we're talking about men, but nonetheless, it is what it is. So there's that aspect of it. Like, you brought in Josh Giddey to be your point guard of the present and the future. At 21 years old, you're hoping that with his playmaking, the way that he's able to operate, the way he's able to start the fast break, even hearing that Josh Giddey has been locked in as far as growing as a defender this offseason, I love that. I want to be clear that there's a lot that Josh Giddey said as far as his focus, his determination, the fact that him and Kobe have already talked. He's built a relationship with Dalen Terry. All that stuff I love. I want to be clear there. I'm not worried about Josh Giddey as a player within a silo of just himself. It's more so, have you created the environment and are you trying to now force Josh Giddey to fit into a role, and you haven't really supplemented what needs to happen around him and Kobe White. Now, I could be worried about something that's not a problem. A lot of teams have multiple ball handlers at different positions, and they figure out the balance there. The one problem with Josh Giddey is that when if you play him off ball, he's really not effective, really at all, right? And so he's still learning how to be effective in that off-ball movement and things like that. So that's going to be an interesting thing. But then AK said something as well in media day that really kind of it made me think of, all right, are the Bulls kind of putting themselves in a situation where they're going to try to force fit something? Now, he said that when AK was asked that if they're going to try to sign Josh Giddey to a contract extension prior to the start of the season, he didn't say for sure, but he did say that they plan on sitting down with Josh Giddey over the coming days. So to me, that means that they're going to sit down. They're going to see if they where he is, where his agency is, where they feel the value is. If they can come to agreement, maybe something happens. If not, they're kind of just gathering information, because keep in mind, with restricted free agents, you can sign them up until the start of the regular season. Once the first day of the regular season starts, you can't reach an extension with them until after the season at that point. Now, you still have the grace period before the official free agency opens that you can negotiate with your own free agents. So that's a big thing. That happens the day after the draft. So the Bulls will have that area to be able to lock in Josh Giddey to that contract extension if they can't do it before the start of the season. But it's just a lot of uncertainty that the Bulls have put themselves in with Josh Giddey again, not just because of the injury, not just because of the fit, but also like you have to re-up a player on a long-term deal with either having no data on your team, right? Specifically on your team, if you sign him to a contract extension prior to the start of the season, or you're locking him in with one season worth of data, and that one season could be where you're focused on just figuring out the balance of Josh Giddey and Kobe White in the backcourt together. So there's that aspect of it where I'm a little bit concerned of the Bulls. Now, and again, this isn't to say Josh Giddey doesn't deserve money, you can't earn money or whatever it is. This isn't really that. It's more so that the Bulls are once again kind of putting themselves into a position where they're not going to have much mobility. And I guess even then, that's not necessarily true, right? In the fact that Kobe White's up for a contract at the end of next season, right? So at that point in time, like if you do lock in Josh Giddey to a contract extension, and then Kobe and Giddey don't work out for 2 years, this year and next season, then maybe you open up that flexibility. But then again, you could be losing a player that I don't know. It's a little concerning there. And it's that I'm sure AK and Eversley have really looked at. They've really kind of they've processed and decided on which way they can possibly want to go. There are questions there. I think that's a fair statement to make. And overall, like I said, Josh Giddey can eliminate all this. Like we can get a week into the season, and Josh Giddey and Kobe are like they're rocking and rolling. They found their chemistry, they found their match, and then it's not even an issue. We're not even worried about that being a fit anymore. And then okay, great, we've done that. Like that's great. That's the best case scenario. The best case scenario that I would love to see in this is that Kobe White and Josh Giddey look like a backcourt that can work together. And if you do get that, and that's a really big promise there. If you get those two guys and they work and they get on the same page and look like, hey, we don't have to necessarily worry about our backcourt for the next 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years, if we can get these guys locked in. That's great. The thing with every offseason, and I know it's not a great process as far as like coming down Bulls fan, what they see and them wanting this team to be successful as soon as possible. But if you can eliminate a question every offseason, now that could take 5 or 6 off seasons, but if you can get to a point where throughout the next 4 seasons, you're eliminating a question on the spot on your roster. Meaning that, let's say this season, you answer the question, Josh Giddey and Kobe White are a backcourt of the future. We feel confident in that. Bam. Now we don't have to worry about the backcourt. We're not worried about the backcourt, right? Then over the next season, you figure out Modest Bucilis, Patrick Williams, who's going to be your long-term four. We feel confident Patrick Williams and Modest Bucilis maybe can be the 3-4 combination or whatever. Versatile young forwards that can grow together. Cool. That's another position now you've eliminated. Ayo Dosunmu, he's our 6th man coming off the bench. We feel confident. We feel okay paying him. Bam. Another question eliminated. You ain't got to worry about it, right? And then you start supplementing things. The problem with what the Bulls have done each of the last off seasons is they ain't got no answers. They ain't got no answers. Every season for the last 3 years, we've gotten more questions. More questions, right? We thought we had some answers. Initially, after bringing in Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, Vooch the season prior to that, we thought we were getting answers. It turned into more questions every year. Is Lonzo going to come back? All right, who's going to be our point guard now that Lonzo's gone? Is Ayo Dosunmu our starting point guard? Oh, Ayo Dosunmu didn't look good. Patrick Beverly, we're bringing in Patrick Beverly. Now, who's the next starting point guard? Oh, Kobe White? Is that Kobe White had a breakout season? Oh, but now we're making moves. So now we're moving Kobe to the 2. Josh Giddey's coming in at the 1. We just have gotten more questions every single season. We have not, throughout the last 4 years, eliminated a single question about this roster. We haven't. And so you want to get to the place where you're starting to eliminate questions. That doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden this perennial playoff team that's going on deep playoff runs, but you got to start eliminating some questions. And that's where my doubt in AK and Eversley come in. We don't eliminate any questions. None. And Davin Winslow, I'm sorry. That for somebody who's already averaged 17, 8, and 6 to say that there isn't ready, or if you're talking about the injury, I read that wrong. That's on me. If Giddey isn't ready, if Giddey isn't ready, I would assume Kobe White as your backcourt. Yeah, you already know. They've shown you. Like, I think that's another kind of safety net that this Bulls team has, is that if Giddey is not ready by the start of the season, you know Ayo and Kobe have great chemistry, right? So you're absolutely right there. That's great. But to get back to my rant, right, is that this Bulls team, one of the failings that they've had is that they haven't eliminated any questions. Even in Kobe White's ascension, right, last year, Kobe White, you had a young player, and you talked about how important it was coming into that season for one of the young players to step up. We got 2 of them. Ayo and Kobe both stepped up hugely. But then in the way that you've changed the direction of the team, you just have taken 2 players that could have been answers, eliminated some things, and you've turned them into more questions now. Because now Ayo is moving from being a having chemistry with Kobe White to being a 6-man, which I think is going to be fine. I don't foresee Ayo having any issue there. But then you've moved Kobe from being a point guard where he was ball dominant, where he was one of the better clutch players in the NBA, and you've turned what could have been an answer into another question, because now we got to see if he can fit next to Josh Giddey. And I get it. I get the whys that it happened. So this isn't to attack the whys. I understand the whys of what had happened and how we got here. But you got to start eliminating questions. That needs to be the focus of this team going forward. You got to start finding answers to the questions. You ain't got the answers, Sway. We ain't got them. We ain't even got the questions. Start eliminating questions, right? So Josh Giddey, when it comes down to Josh Giddey, I would love nothing more than for Josh Giddey to be this player that we look at and we say, hey, we ain't got to worry about the point guard situation. Not to say that Josh Giddey doesn't have flaws. That's the point of team building, is you want to start eliminating flaws with how you construct your team. But I would love nothing more than Josh Giddey come here and be the point guard. And all of a sudden now we're saying, hey, we got a 21, 22-year-old point guard in here. We ain't got to worry about his ass no more, right? That's great. That's great. But then you get to the Lonzo Ball situation of this, right? And while Lonzo's on an expiring contract, and that question may answer itself, at some point it turns into a question because of the season, right? And because of now, where does Lonzo fit in? Now, granted, and this is the thing that I think people have to understand, right? If Lonzo is cleared, if he's cleared, when he's cleared, I'll say when he's cleared, whenever he's cleared, because it does seem like he is going to be cleared at some point this season. When Lonzo is cleared, it adds more questions. You know why? Because where are you going to play him? You're already starting 3 guards. And I know Billy Donovan doesn't care. You're starting Giddey, Kobe, and Zach LaVine. That's your 1, 2, and 3. You got Ayo Dosunmu coming off the bench. That's 4. We only go 8 or 9 deep, right? You got Jalen Smith. So that's 7 players that you already have in your rotation, right? Out of your starting 5, and then that. Modest Bucilis, is probably going to get minutes here, right? Torrey Craig probably going to get minutes here. So then you now have to fit in Lonzo, and then you don't even know how and what. You can't bet on Lonzo game in and game out. And for a team that's already trying to figure out its chemistry, adding Lonzo Ball back in here can help, but it also can hurt as Lonzo is trying to figure out his trying to figure out who and what he's now in the NBA. Because 100% Lonzo Ball in 2024 may still be worse than a 30% Lonzo Ball in 2021 because we just don't know how his body's going to react. I love how honest Lonzo was about that as well, right? The Lonzo Ball stands, I saw him in the media day stream. Some of them are retarded. Oh, I can't say that. Some of them are mentally challenged. Some of them are a bit remedial. Some of them are neurodivergent. But with that said, is that, the people who thought Lonzo was going to come in here and start, Lonzo even told you that's not happening. And so for you to get a player back on a team that already doesn't have structure, it'd be different if this Chicago Bulls team had a structure. We don't have structure at all. We don't have it. So now trying to figure out how to incorporate another guard that isn't going to play back-to-backs. It's probably going to play a max of 16 to 18 minutes, and that may be on the high end at least to start the season. And B, you have no idea how effective he's going to be when he's out there, at least initially. So again, the situation that the Bulls have is just more and more questions, And, hopefully this coaching staff and the team prepares for that and finds it over time, but it's going to be okay. I mean, it may be. Listen, looking good in 5-on-5 against regular humans is a lot different than NBA competition. And even looking good in 5-on-5 in an open gym is a lot different than structured NBA basketball. It just is, right? It just is. Keep in mind, Andre Drummond was hitting 3-pointers in 5-on-5s. Did we trust him to do that in the season? I'm just saying. So, and the way that you have to understand of how his body's going to have to adjust to the NBA, it just brings a lot there. Vaughn says, I'm not understanding the delusion some of these Zoe stands have. I get it, but man, his fans shouldn't want him to rush back anyways because that usually never works out. I mean, I agree with you, but, people are stupid. It is what it is. Craig, Zoe, and Jalen and Io are the regular 9. Zoe is, but no, he's not. And no, listen, no, I'm sorry, Reginald. No, that's just not true. Manas Busalis is going to get minutes on this team. He's going to get minutes on this team. And Lonzo, you can't bet again for a player that's not playing back-to-backs. It's going to, and keep in mind, just because he's not playing back-to-back doesn't mean he's still going to play in games, even if there's a day between it, depending on how you're not going to rely on Lonzo being part of your everyday. He's going to get some minutes, but he's not going to be part of your main rotation of your main 9 with the limitations that are there for Lonzo Ball. He's not. On top of us, again, not knowing how effective he's going to be. He's just not. He's not. So, after not playing for 2 years, cut him, son, slack, bruh. No, I mean, listen, and this isn't to be judgmental. That's the thing. This isn't to be judgmental and say, hey, Lonzo, you fucking suck because you can't play back-to-backs. No. Like, what Lonzo has went through has had to be mentally taxing as hell, right? So this isn't to blame Lonzo or say, hey, Lonzo, get your bitch ass up and play more minutes. That's not what it is, right? But it's to be realistic about where he is right now, right? And so it's not as simple as like, oh, we're going to be okay. Go and check for me the history of players that have had the players to be the first to come back from a type of surgery. It's just not there, right? Or it's not that you have the longevity of your career, or it takes you a long time to get back to. Again, look at Jonathan Isaac, and he didn't even have a rare injury. He had an injury that we've seen from in the last 30. We see every season somebody has in the last 30 years, right? And he could not come back. And even last season, he turned into one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, he still played 56 games and averaged 18 minutes. So it's not to judge Lonzo, it's just to be realistic of where you are, right? Like if your girl ain't got no cheeks and you sit there and say, hey, flat back, holla at me. Like, that's not judgmental. You ain't got no yams. You ain't got it. So, it is what it is, and we'll see what comes along with it. Shout out to Quentin says, Lonzo and Giddey are extremely honest about their game. Facts. Very honest. They were both very, very honest about their games. Very honest about the games. How often does Billy play rookies over vets who are contributing? I can see a lot. And see, this is where a misconception is. Did Io play right away? He absolutely did. Absolutely did. Did Patrick Williams play right away? He absolutely did. Go back and check as well. Before Julian Phillips got hurt, he was playing more minutes and more games than Torrey Craig. He started passing up Torrey Craig on the depth chart. Everybody goes to Billy Donovan doesn't play rookies, and that's just not facts. The only rookies that Billy Donovan did not play early into their career was not Modest Bucilis, was Marko Simonovic, who apparently sucked because he's now out of the league, and Dalen Terry, who was extremely raw. We knew Dalen Terry wasn't going to be playing this rookie year. The whole purpose of Dalen Terry was to come in and play in the G League. Modest Bucilis has already played in the G League all last season. What is he going to learn from there? Folks may not even play. Billy already said people got to work there, but that's a fact. And I love that Billy Donovan said that. Now, we got to see that be for real, right? And be what Billy Donovan honestly does. But I love that Billy Donovan said that as well. Love it. Love it. Great point, brother. Great point, brother. Saddest thing in the world is a black woman with okay. That's why I should have proofread that. I die laughing at the one black reporter talking about his sales. He sells dogs. Can't take the good. Oh, that wasn't a reporter. That was Dalen Terry. That was Dalen Terry who asked that question. I posted the video on the channel. There was another angle of it. The person who asked who asked that question, it was actually Dalen Terry. It wasn't even a reporter. It was Dalen Terry. We were basically back to the Bulls before tomorrow. No, I'll say this. No, I think we're in a much better position because we have young players that have actually showed something other than Zach LaVine. Kobe has shown something. Io has shown something, right? Even Patrick Williams, while he has been disappointing, the fact that he can be a 41% shooter, solid defender, and can average 10 points per game, that's a lot more than what we had from a young core at that point in time. A lot more consistent. He's just got to stay consistent on the floor, right? So I think that we got a lot more. Even having Josh Giddey here, right, and being 21 years old and what he's been able to do so far in his NBA career, he's still a very flawed player, but I think we're well ahead of what we were before DeMar came. But that's still not great. I want to be clear. It's still not great, right? But I think we're a little bit better than that. I already read that one. The boy's tripping. Were you kind of getting the vibe of the young Bulls making Zach feel like the vet in place of DeMar now? Looks like Zach is ready to embrace it too, but I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. Well, Zach is a veteran. Zach LaVine's been in the league for what, 11 years now? Like, he's a veteran. Take the age away from it. If you've been in a job 11 years, you're a vet. And so, yeah, and he's also the longest tenured Bull. And so, yeah, and that may come with maybe a bit of reverence from Zach LaVine as far as realizing like, hey, I'm now Thad Young, right? I'm Thaddeus now here. I'm what Thad was to me. I have the opportunity to be that for Modest Bucilis. I have the opportunity to be that for Josh Giddey. I think that, yeah, and even listen, I know people aren't gonna like Kobe White is a veteran on this team. He's the second longest tenured Bull, right? As far as being an actual Chicago Bull. So I listen, he's a vet. You're absolutely spot on. Zach LaVine is now the vet of this team. It was refreshing to hear Billy be truthful about our defense not being good. Facts. 100%. 100%. I love that Vooch gets to practice versus a younger, quicker big. When last year it was mostly drum, he practiced versus. Does it highlight the deficiencies of the staff more now? Or does Vooch change his approach? Listen, at this point, Vooch is who he is. Vooch isn't all of a sudden going to become a better defender at this point in his career. He's just not. And it is what it is at this point. Vooch is who Vooch is. And I think that's why you kind of see Vooch in the mood that he was as well. I think Vooch also realizes like that he's getting to the point where every player gets to the point where they realize the game is about to start passing them up. And that's where this is going, right? The type of bigs that Vooch is usually effective at on the defensive end, they're becoming less and less and less common in the NBA. And so the game, not even just the Bulls, not even just the East, the game is starting to get to a point where it's passing Vooch up. Zach's interview may have been my favorite part of media. I think a lot of people agree with that. I think a lot of people took that interview from Zach and really enjoyed that. Oh yeah, he's a vet, but I mean the guy young players embrace and talk highly of. Seems like DeMar was getting all the love before. Oh yeah, I mean like Josh Giddey talked very highly of. Kobe's always talked very highly of Zach LaVine as well. To hear Josh Giddey call LaVine a superstar was like, but then he immediately kind of was like, yeah, he's a star in this league, like which he is, right? Which he is. I know people have talked about him like he's this horrible player for the last 18 months, but he's not. Io Dalen, Julian Modest, Vooch, Benchmont 3.0. I won't say necessarily that Vooch is going to come off the bench. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Do you think the Bulls will trade Craig and Zoe at the deadline? If there's an offer, or do they pull a Drummond and fight for the play-in? I think that's going to be determined by how the season looks for the Bulls. I think a lot's going to be determined by like the end of December where the Bulls look like they are. I think that they keep in mind. So the season starts at the end of October. You have that whole full month of November, the whole full month of December. And then at that point, you have enough data leading into the trade deadline in February to make a kind of decision on where your team's going to be. Zach is just not a primarily vocal leader. He's someone who just wants to show up and be an example on the court. I think locker room vocal leader will have to come somewhere else unless he steps up. I agree with that 100%. No notes, no arguments there for me at all. 100% I agree with you. Salute, brother. I just need Dalen to hit threes so we never have to see bad pump. Oh, well, that's the one thing. Lonzo Ball is probably going to take the Javon Carter time. Like, how many games did Javon Carter play in last year? That's probably where Lonzo Ball is going to sit at now. And that's perfectly fine, right? There's no reason we should see the ball headed hoe this year for real. There's no reason we should see the ball headed hoe. He played in 72 games. Javon Carter played 72 games last season. That's crazy. But look, I can see this being Lonzo, maybe with more minutes. Javon Carter played 72 games last year and averaged 14 minutes per game in that time. I truly do think, I'm not saying that Lonzo could play 72 games, but I think that whatever amount of games that Lonzo could play, probably up that 14 to about 15 to 16, I think that's probably what Lonzo could do. I think that's probably what Lonzo can do next year for the Chicago Bulls. What's going on, Haize? Hope you're doing well, brother. Thank you, Denord. I'm doing mostly okay. I'm alive. I'm not dead. So there's that. There's that. My stomach has been killing me today, but that's because I'm old and I have to realize that dairy don't sit well with me no more. It just doesn't. Is it possible to ban Javon from the UC? I don't think so. He has a badge. He's an employee technically. So, that's what it comes down to. I need Javon to become Velus Jones the last 3 games in a hoodie. That's crazy. A healthy scratch in an NBA game is crazy. Do you think keeping someone like Lonzo and Craig just blocks minutes that could go to Dalen or Julian? Well, I mean, listen, the thing is, it's up to Julian and Dalen to earn it. Like that's what Billy Donovan has said. You're not going to give young players minutes just to give them minutes. They got to come in and earn it. So, hey, let that be motivation to you, right? If I'm a 22-year-old in the NBA that was drafted and there's a 32-year-old guy ahead of me that we're clearly not a playoff team and they're not playing that, it's not like Torrey Craig's burning the world out there. You take that personally. That's what these young guys need to do. They need to take it personally. No dairy, no hot foods, age don't play. I'm cool with hot foods, don't bother me. It's that damn dairy, bro. Like I made rasta pasta yesterday for dinner, and I ate it. Heavy cream goes. I'm just noticing anything with heavy cream, it kills my stomach. It kills my whole vibe. It tastes good, but it kills my whole vibe. Yeah, I'm at the anti-dairy age, man. That's where we are. Is Javon the new ball boy with Marco gone? I mean, at least he's not a 6-foot ball boy. I really haven't heard or seen anything from Julian. I mean, you would think that Julian is healthy, right? We'll see. We'll see. But all right, last thing before we get out of here is the update that we had that was thrown in there about Patrick Williams. So when Arturas Karnisovas was asked if Patrick Williams is fully healthy, he says that Pat is healthy. He's been playing 5-on-5. The last thing that we heard is that he hadn't been doing 5-on-5 in a few weeks. So seems like that's eliminated. What's up, son? What's up? Come here. Come on. Stop standing there like Candyman. Do I need to shoot you? What's up, Buddha?
What?
What's good?
Am I sleepwalking?
No, you're not sleepwalking. You're fully alert. Give me a hug. Because now you done came down here and interrupted me while I'm streaming. What's up? You good? Oh, you smell good.
I took a shower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You just came down to see what I was doing?
Yeah.
You want to watch a horror movie?
How long is it?
About an hour.
I think so.
Okay. What you want to watch?
Like which one?
Yeah. You want to watch Freddy? Or you want to watch Jason?
Freddy is scary?
Yeah.
Yes.
All
I
right.
want to do Freddy.
Okay, bet. All right. That was my son telling me to wrap this on up so we can watch some horror movies. So, with that said, the update to Patrick Williams, though, is that he's been playing 5-on-5, and I think that's really good. You want to eliminate all the questions that you can while in training camp. And so if Patrick Williams is fully healthy and ready to go by training camp, I think that's a big thing, and that's important for this Bulls team as well. Does Batum make the roster? And if so, does he get minutes? That's a big question. That's a big question. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it all comes down to everybody got to earn it. Everybody has to earn it, right? So we'll see. He said in my sleepwalking. Listen, my son is eccentric as hell. Like that dude he's a very eccentric dude, but I love him. I love him. But all right, y'all. As you can tell, father duty is on. I love you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. Thank you guys for tuning in. Answer this last question from Reginald. Do you watch 70s scary movies with your son or the remakes? Come on, we start with the originals here. We just did a watch through of Halloween 1 through 3. We did watch 3. I do actually like how I used to hate Halloween 3, the one without Michael Myers. We did that. We started on the original Friday the 13th. We made it through the first 2 of those. So Jason still hasn't gotten the hockey mask yet. And then this will be the first time of us watching the original Freddy. So there you guys go.